All right, welcome to session 2. Welcome everyone. I hope you're able to join us in our last session. We had a wonderful conversation around what the future of frontline work looks like. As we think about the future of frontline workforce, it's critical to understand how to connect with the frontline. And that's why I'm really excited to introduce our speakers for the next session, Bridging the Frontline Gap. But before I do, a couple of housekeeping items that I'm sure you're used to hearing us say now. If you have any questions, please add them in the chat on the right-hand side, and we'll respond to as many as we can. If we aren't able to get to your questions, no worries, we'll follow up with you directly afterwards. So this session, Bridging the Frontline Gap, is led by two amazing customers of ours over at Cargill. Kimberly Wolf is an experienced IT professional who helps bridge the gap between business needs and technology capability. Kimberly joined Cargill in February 2019. Prior to serving Cargill, she has worked for 30 years in infrastructure leadership, IT operations management, and as director of web development. Kimberly is joined by Jay Knoll, senior communications specialist, supporting Cargill's Protein North America business. Jay joined Cargill in September 2018. Prior to that, he spent more than 15 years in journalism and broadcasting, holding content creation and leadership roles at various newspapers, radio, and television stations in Iowa and Minnesota. I can't wait to hear all about this. I'll hand it over to both of you, Kimberly and Jay.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Charla, for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to present today. Kimberly and I are really so honored to discuss with you all about how Beekeeper is helping Cargill and many other companies bridge the frontline gap. And we'll talk a little bit about where we were, maybe some of where you folks are today, where we are now, and what we've learned, and then where we're going. So really excited to be here. If we advance to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about who we are, and that is Cargill. Our company, Cargill, has a long history of nourishing the world in a safe, responsible, and sustainable way. And simply put, Cargill, in partnership with our farmers and ranchers and customers, everyone throughout the supply chain from farm to table, is really, simply put, responsible for feeding the world. And we take that responsibility quite seriously. And we do this by practicing our values of putting people first, doing the right thing, and reaching higher. And when we think about putting people first, I mean, that's everyone from the frontline worker to the C-suite. But like many companies, internal audiences are oftentimes divided into wired and non-wired employees, right? And in Cargill Protein specifically, we have more than 23,000 of our employees that are in our production plants who are non-wired, who don't have email, may not know their digital identity, at a time probably relied on videos on monitors throughout the production plant, or posters on a bulletin board, right? And oftentimes English is not their first language. So Cargill's protein business in North America realized this significant gap, and we started to work to find a solution. And with that, we'll go to the next slide, and I'll toss it to Kim to talk a little bit more about why we landed with Beekeeper as a solution.
Thanks, Jay. When we got started on our Beekeeper journey about 2 years ago, we brought together people from IT, but also people from a couple of the Cargill plant locations, and human resources and corporate communications. And we were discussing what challenges that we have, and some of the problems, business problems that we needed to solve. We understood that in our plant locations, as you may have seen on the previous slide, there are over 30 different languages that are spoken, and that's just in North America. Cargill's global, but right now our focus is on the United States and in Canada. So trying to communicate between supervisors and employees, and two different employees on a shift, a real problem that we needed to solve. Also, very paper-based at that point in time. So schedules would get posted on bulletin boards, as Jay said, and it would be difficult for an employee to find information when it was convenient for them. And a lot of the work was siloed in the various areas of the plants. So when we met together to look for a solution, or to understand the requirements so that we could look for a solution, some key use cases came up, and our IT folks that we were partnering with did a kind of a search through the industry, and Beekeeper rose to the top, very much because of the ability to have language translation and because of the ease of use. So the interface has a very social media feel, as most of you know, and therefore the adoption is simple for our employees. So we started with a pilot, and then COVID came into play. And so instead of a slow pilot, we went from 0 to 60 in about 2 weeks flat, trying to roll Beekeeper out to the 40 plus locations across Cargill. We felt it extremely important that we be able to safely communicate with our employees in a COVID world, so that they weren't gathering around bulletin boards looking at schedules. They could have schedules at their fingertips, so that as a plant maybe needed to have additional cleaning routines and so on, we needed to be able to get that information into our employees' hands. It turned out to be absolutely beautiful in that in the employee recognition as we were going through this, and the community building as we were going through this, really helped with employee adoption. So we moved to an environment where data that employees needed was in their fingertips when they needed it. And two individuals in the same plant who couldn't previously communicate without an interpreter were now able to communicate, and that was amazing. Next slide, please.
So Kim mentioned, we launched a pilot at a facility in Minnesota in late February. COVID happened. It accelerated our entire timeline and rollout. And by late December of last year, we had deployed the tool to all Cargill protein production locations in the US and Canada. Since then, more than 12,000 previously non-wired employees have opted into using this platform and this tool, and now they're easily connected to the information and resources that Kim mentioned. Resources, information, and communication that they didn't have before, and it's right at their fingertips. Adoption rates we found have ranged, from 10% in some locations to more than 90% at a plant's employee population, and the plants have small beekeeper teams that have really taken ownership of the content that they provide their local audience. They know what's best for the people at their location. We've seen plant general managers record video messages and post on their local streams. We've seen health or environmental and health and safety professionals at that location share safety information, share food safety best practices across not only their location, but have visibility and share best practices for other locations. Kim mentioned having a production schedule, something as simple as having a production schedule at a fingertip, not having to go to a bulletin board and do so in a safe and manner. It's so important for our frontline workers just to have something as simple as that. So communication capabilities that are safe, that bring down language barriers, so important. And Beekeeper has really been that tool to make it happen and increase engagement and helping us really build, I think, a customer-driven culture, because Cargill, that is what Cargill is. We are building and growing a customer-driven culture and connecting our people with our customers, because when our customers win, we win. And building that connection like we haven't been able to do before is so important. Again, from the C-suite down to the plant floor, all of us being aligned on that customer-driven culture is so important, and Beekeeper is the tool that's making that happen. If we go to the next slide.
So there's a number of things that we've learned along the way. We went through a process because of how many different locations that we have. We couldn't roll every location out at the same time. So the process of training was some training for local administrators and so forth, were some things we had to break out into waves. Getting that repeatable process and having that training plan so that you could onboard a location was really important to us. So we went through the first couple of waves and we kept them smaller. And then we would have retrospectives to see what we had learned from the rollout and what we would need to do to make it better. And the important part there is we engaged the local people in the plant to give us that feedback so that we could do better in future rollouts. So onboarding locations was really important, and getting that feedback from the front line in terms of what was working and what wasn't helped to make the future rollouts a whole lot better. Having strong local and lead admins, those people, those go-to people in your plants, maybe not necessarily the plant manager, but the person that everybody knows and everybody engages with was really important. So we found some really good local admins. And where we've got adoption, you've got some strong leadership. So that's amazing. We made a mistake as we were starting, because we were advertising Beekeeper as being a tool for hourly employees. And that was a big mistake on our part that we had to learn quickly. Supervisors and team leads are key to the adoption of Beekeeper and the success of Beekeeper, because when you have a team lead or a supervisor who is making use of the chat function or the group chat function, or that has a team stream, it is huge for employees, because now they know that that's their core. That's where they need to get their information. There's value for me if I can communicate with my supervisor. It's really good. Leadership engagement is from the top to the bottom in our organization and from the bottom to the top. We've recently announced with Cargill that Brian Sykes is our new COO and eventually will be our CEO. Brian comes out of the North America Protein environment. And when it was announced that he was promoted into this new position, the frontline people that remember Brian coming through the plants, they were out in Beekeeper and they were commenting about how proud they were of him. And the cool thing about it is Brian was in Beekeeper, responding back to these frontline employees, showing, that mutual respect and appreciation. It was just fabulous. Another way we're using Beekeeper that is engaging our employees and helping them understand what a digital identity is. So for a lot of our employees, this is the first bit of technology that they're being able to really fully utilize. And so we have to help them understand what a digital identity is and how that will connect them then to other applications, such as payroll and so on, that they maybe didn't really access before because they didn't want to sit at a kiosk in the plant when they were on break and so on. So Beekeeper is giving us the opportunity to do some really cool education that just wasn't possible before. If you look at the pie chart that is in the right-hand side of the screen, we did learn something really unique, though, about trust. And that is that a lot of our employees really don't want an app installed. They want the data, they want to make use of the data, but they don't want to use an app because then somebody else might see what else is on their phone. So about a third of our employees, while actively engaged in Beekeeper, are coming at it from a mobile browser, not from the application. So that was a really interesting learning. And it's something that has been really good feedback into our IT environment around digital identity and what an employee is willing or unwilling to do. The chat and group chat function has been amazing, especially because of the ability to have translation and the ability to attach a photograph. So if you have a supervisor that speaks one language and needs to communicate a task to another employee that doesn't speak the same language, they can take a photo. The whatever they type can be translated, and it's amazing. It has really enabled efficiencies because you don't have to find that third person to do the translation between two people. So that's really pretty cool. Some barriers to adoption, if I can skip there. We heard a couple of things. The pie graph represents an example, right? They don't want to install an app on their phone, but they found their way around it by using browsers. The other barrier to adoption for many of our employees is the use of personal cellular data plans. So that was something we heard loud and clear. What we realized, though, is that most of our frontline employees were unaware that Cargill has negotiated carrier discounts on their behalf. Because they didn't have access to this information, they weren't making use of the discounts. And so we've been able to do a lot of education to help employees know that they can save money on their carrier plan. And thus it helps take the sting out of any personal data that they might be using. Employee recognition is a huge game changer. The ability to take a photograph, especially in COVID times, and post it out and say, hey, this person has done something really awesome. And then when you see the leadership from the Wichita headquarters or from the Minneapolis headquarters posting to say, you did awesome, congratulations. The community building, the employee engagement that builds is just so wonderful. And last but not least, and some of the things that we've learned, Cargill, as you saw at the very first slide, 155,000 employees. This is a very large global company. And as tends to be with large global companies, we have our norms or our practices. One of the norms and practices within global IT at Cargill is that you've got the HR people and you have the operations centered people and you have the security centered people and so on. So there's kind of these towers of application stacks. Beekeeper's challenging that because this is not just a collaboration tool. This is not just an HR tool for the benefits people to be able to say what's coming in the next benefits year. This is not just a tool where we can communicate what's going on in payroll. This is not just a tool for the frontline individual to be able to enter into a form and submit something back on a safety notice. We have something for a immediate response form if somebody sees something that potentially might be unsafe, for example. It is challenging because there's a lot of things that can happen in one tool, and it services a constituency within Cargill that really hadn't been served before. So engage, if you're going down this journey, be sure you engage the back office of IT to help them understand why the frontline worker is so important to our organization and why the rules for security that might have applied for a desktop, for a laptop, have to be revisited so that it fits the tool that's out there. Next slide, please. All right, where are we going within Cargill? I know in the session before this one, there was a lot of conversation around how operations are changing, and certainly that is the same at Cargill. We have a project that we call the Factory of the Future. Not eliminating human people, but trying to make the environment safer, trying to make it easier to work at Cargill. And our Factory of the Future project is incorporating Beekeeper to help give the frontline employees more tools, more access to information, and automation of operational processes. So let's get rid of that paper. It is working really well. We're still in pilot mode, but we're seeing Beekeeper be a phenomenal partner in working through that operations improvement process. Like everybody else out there, I'm sure that you see that labor is in short supply. Really good labor is in short supply. At Cargill, we want to be the easy button in the community. We want to be the employer of choice, not just because we provide good benefits, not just because we're very focused on safety, but in all cases, we want to be the easy button so that the good labor in the environment is coming to Cargill, and we want to keep employees that are really good and not have that turnover. So Beekeeper's helping us in that regard by making it easier for the employee to work for Cargill. Last but not least, as Jay said earlier, Cargill is an extremely customer-driven company, and our frontline employees are paramountly important to making sure that we can provide a phenomenal quality product to our customers. Beekeeper helps us keep these employees engaged and being successful, and in doing so, they help our customers, and that's what we're all about. Our frontline employees bring protein with purpose to life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you both so much. That was incredible to understand how you're bridging the frontline gap that is seen across the entire frontline workforce. We do have some questions that came from the audience. So I will read the question out and then I'll let you decide who's going to take the answer. But the first question is, what has been the most challenging aspect of connecting all your employees?
I'll take that one if you don't mind, Jay.
Sure. Yep.
I think one of the biggest challenges is just that initial login, that first login. Most of our frontline employees didn't realize they had a digital identity because they weren't using it on a routine basis. So helping get employees, when you're dealing with 30 different languages, having that instruction, and we have translated first login instruction into 30 different languages. So getting past that first login is the biggest barrier. Once the employee is in, they are in. And Beekeeper's phenomenal analytics tell us that once they're in, they're sticky. They're there and they're there to stay because there's value for them there. It's getting them past that first login.
Interesting. The next question was, what are some examples of feedback you've received from your frontline employees?
I can take that one, Kim. It's been a range of ease of use. Again, having the information right at their fingertips has been awesome. But just the way that we've been able to engage our frontline workers around and connect them with our customers. That's been really, we recently rebranded some pet treats, the Chompery, that we make, and we engaged our beekeeper audience and just the customer, not only recognize the team that produces these great premium dog treats, but also like actually having a contest, and we had a share your cute pooch pictures with us, right? So we made a Chompery stream and held a contest, and just engaging our frontline workers with our customers and the products that they produce like never before. That was we actually had more of a response and engagement in that particular program with our previously non-wired or our production workers than we did with our office-based workers, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool to see that customer-driven culture come to life with that audience.
I love that. Yeah, seeing cute dog pictures, I think
everybody
makes
loves
everybody happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Another question came out. You were talking about how you rolled out in pilot first and then in waves. So somebody was asking, how did you select the pilot locations, especially for those first waves?
I'll take this one, Jay. Thanks. The first pilot was near our headquarters, and this was pre-COVID. So at that point in time, our intent was if we needed to be able to get to the plant, we would. So we wanted something where logistically it was easy to show up if necessary. It was never necessary, even in the pilot. And then when COVID happened, we had to do everything hands off. So we were not allowed to travel to the locations to help the local administrators get things rolled out. So it was really important that we have good training materials. Our customer success manager, Yuxti, amazing lady. We love Yuxti. And she not only helped us create a video that our local admins could watch when it was convenient for them, right? Because some are working first shift, some are working second shift, some are working third shift. So we needed to make sure that the training material was sound quality stuff when and available when it was convenient for the local admins. And because Yuxti's bilingual, she actually did it for us in English and in Spanish, which was amazing. We adore Yuxti, we really do.
That's great. You did mention that a third of your employees are using the web instead of the app. When and how are they accessing Beekeeper?
In our plants, it is absolutely taboo to have a cell phone on the plant floor. Mm-hmm. We are a food manufacturer, and so on the plant floor, we cannot have anything get into the food itself. There cannot be any contamination. So they're using the tool on breaks, maybe a short break or a lunch break, or at home when it's convenient for them, but not on the plant floor. That one's taboo.
Mm-hmm.
We do also have, depending on the facility, I mean, we do have kiosks, right, that are constantly sanitized, right? And so, there are some employees who might just use the browser on their phone, or if there's an available kiosk for them to access the information, or just kind of, maybe once a day they'll, as maybe they show up 15 minutes early for their shift, we'll go to the kiosk, check out Beekeeper, get a rundown of what's happening that day, and then off they go. So that's another avenue for them to access the platform.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And I think the last question that came through that I have is, which other solutions did you consider when you were weighing, Beekeeper versus some of the others?
There were a number of different tools out there. It is practice within Cargill to start with what do we have already. So we looked at tools like Yammer and some of the Microsoft suite that was already part of Cargill. Teams does have multilingual capabilities, but it wasn't accessible to the frontline workers at that point in time. But Beekeeper rose to the top. It also helped to have people that had come from other industries in the selection process and in the conversation process.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I think we'll leave it there. As I mentioned before, if we weren't able to get to any of your questions in the audience, have no worries. We will follow up with you directly. And we're going to take an hour break for lunch and networking. So please be sure to visit the expo floor. It's on the left-hand side of your screen, and visit with the exhibitors and just jump into the networking tab to meet some fellow frontline leaders. And we'll see you back here at 1:30 Central Standard Time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.